They want to control the uncontrollable. At your core, you're just spirit. You're infinite. You cannot control that. You cannot rationalize that. You cannot compartmentalize that. It is infinite in and of itself. They've gotten you to identify with just this body. You're also an inexhaustible energy source. You are energy forever, eternally. They need you because they get their sustenance from your identification with the distortion. When you identify your consciousness with anger or jealousy or fear is the biggest one, you're identifying with the distortion, you're identifying with the ego, and they feed off of that energy that you produce. So that doesn't feel good in the vessel because it's not aligned with your true self. It's not aligned with what you actually are. So you produce a frequency, you distort the frequency, and they feed that. Like you're the frequency of God. You're the frequency of unconditional love. As it comes through the lens, the ego, the distortion, they get you to identify with something that you're not, and they feed that. They feed off of that. That's their sustenance. So they need to control you because they don't create reality like we do. They're imitators. They can only imitate what's already been created. So they have to get us en masse to create a reality that's conducive for their energy needs. They have to get a mass of people to identify with fear or identify with anger.
And how do they do that?
Well, they use things such as media. Media is one of the biggest things that distorts your perception of reality. It's just one big TV show. All the Fox, CNN, they're all the same. They're all being controlled by the same people. And it's to get you to think and see the world in a certain way. So you think a certain way, so you create a certain reality. And then if enough people do it, the collective creates a certain reality that's conducive, whether it's war or famine or greed or suffering. They literally feed off of that energy. That's their food, and they're afraid of us maverick beings, because we're cutting their food supply. We're not identifying with fear. We're not identifying with anger because we know our true self. We know that that's not us. We know that it doesn't feel good in the vessel because it's out of alignment with God. It's out of alignment with ourself. So we're cutting their food supply, and we're getting other people to cut their food supply by not identifying with distortion. It's taking back your own power of your manifestation, which is huge. It's huge to take back your power. That's why they fear us so much, because we literally collapse the infinite wave of creation and solidify it into what we refer to as physical reality. We crystallize energy, we densify it with our observation. Nothing has any built-in meaning. That you and I, in our own reality, we give it the meaning. We are meaning-bringing creatures, so they want to get us to apply their meaning to something. This is what something means. Take away your own power of observation, your own power of identifying something without a distortion. You are energy forever. You just are. Your consciousness forever. And you've chosen to siphon that consciousness through a vehicle that operates within this frequency band, to learn from distortion, to learn from separation, to learn from illusion, learn from the illusion of lack, and to take a cosmic leap in consciousness by delving completely into darkness and rising back into light. However, now that you're identified with this vehicle that operates in this bandwidth, they have successfully in some way got us to forget what we really are and think that this is all we are. And that's when your power is removed. That's how they control you. That's how they control an inexhaustible energy source. They can get you to work like a slave your entire life, feeding them your entire life, and then when this vessel no longer operates properly, you leave it, and they more than likely are successful in recycling you back into this farm planet.
What do you mean recycle?
When you expand out back into the less dense body, the astral body, which is just terms, it's just consciousness expanding beyond the physical bandwidth, they will come to you, taking the form of a loved one, someone that you had a strong attachment to, because that's also how they get you. Attachment to the body, attachment to ego, keeping the consciousness identified with just the lens, and then they'll say, hey, you need to come here. Hey, come here. We need. This is the way to go, because you haven't had any practice in the astral plane. You don't even know what it is. You don't know even what's going on. You haven't experienced it because you've been locked in body consciousness your whole life. You've never expanded out. You've been locked in the prison of the physical vehicle your whole life. So when you come out, you don't know. You're still in ego. You're just in a less dense form of it, and they convince you to go back into a matrix, one just like this, and to sustain them.
Are they evil?
The ones that do this are not evil. They're just dark. They don't understand their connection to life the way we do. They don't understand their connection to the Supreme the way we do, so they don't value it. They don't value life. They can watch millions of children starve to death, every day, and they don't feel the way we feel because they don't understand it, So they're not evil, but that's what they're identifying with. They're identifying with some of the most densest forms of ego, and they are sustained by the darkness. In a big way, we're sustained by the light. They're just more confused than even we are. They're just more densified than we are. They're just more detached from God, from their creator than we are. And the only way they can sustain themselves is to get other people to reflect their state of consciousness, to get other people to embody their distortion.